What are you, what took you to the city? Okay, so this is your profession.
That's good. Maybe people come Southwest Island. Forgotten people.
Hello. Hi, how are you guys? Good. We hear that Gary was the one who helped Beth and Gina get taken care of. My goodness.
Oh, I happened to be out getting my garbage and heard someone call it.
What's that? Goodness.
Yeah. It was about 7:15 at night, and I'm kind of deaf. I thought it was a cat. Yow, you know? Yow. And then it said, help me. And she was about, a good half block away, you see. And I said, where are you? And then she said, well, I'm on the drive. I said, near the house or near the street? She said, no, in the middle. It was dark, I couldn't see, you see. And then
she's got a messed up leg.
Well, she tried to crawl. She said she was out there 20 minutes. She tried to crawl to her front door. And I went to the front door, then around the world. Her son-in-law Tim came out and made a phone call.
I don't know you. Mackenzie? Are you here with Fred, or are you in Adams County?
I live in Des Moines actually, but I came to see Fred.
Okay, good. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
What brings you to Corning's other than that, or is that it?
That was it. Yep.
So you came from Des Moines?
I did, yep.
My wife and I go to Des Moines every weekend to see our grandsons play basketball or football or something in Urbandale. We're trying to sell our acreage here and move to Urbandale if we can.
Oh, yeah, Urbandale is really nice.
Been here for 46 years.
Sure.
Nice of you to come. Anything that we sell here for food is pretty good.
Yeah?
Been here before.
I haven't. Nope, this is my first time. So.
Tell me your name one more time.
Mackenzie?
And that's just so you know that part of that incredible.
I am, yep.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
But last year I did
At least they didn't reschedule it a lot before. So I don't know. It's really great.
I also appreciated this one for yes, we did. I always actually have
Hubbell County, huh?
I sure did, yep.
How come?
Just wanted to see you, and I'm trying to learn more about the different candidates, decide who I'm voting for. So, yeah.
Glad you came.
I've been to a few McGuire and Bolton events, but this is the first one I've been to for you. So,
Good. Well, thanks for coming.
yeah, of course.
Here's the goodie. Yes. So this is the Google.
I used to be a teacher, so I'm ready to go.
Oh, there you go.
Put my hand up, put my hand up.
When mine was we got
If you hear my voice, clap
I was
along.
camp director. And goes
I rolled it up and I'm like,
All right, everyone. Hello there. That's all right. I trust y'all.
All right, guys. They're ready for us.
I used to be a teacher. I'm not going to treat y'all like my sixth graders, but I think we're better than that, right? Hey, well, thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Michael Newberger. I'm the organizer for Mr. Hubbell here in Adams County. I'm really excited to have you guys out here. I think you guys get to see why I'm so excited to be working with Fred here. You know, we have our caucus coming up. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're definitely going to need your support. And, you know, I really think we have a chance to turn Iowa around. You know, I don't know that you guys have watched Governor Reynolds is doing in Des Moines. And every day, it just seems to kind of put us on the wrong track. And I really think Mr. Hubbell's a man for the job, and by working together as Democrats, we can take this around and really get stuff all back on the right track by their education, our mental health system, dealing with the substance abuse crisis. We have a lot on our plate, but I really think if we work together, we can accomplish it. So without further ado, here's Mr. Hubbell. Thank you.
Pretty good, huh? You even wore a tie for all you folks. Well, thank you for taking time out of your day and bringing these people to business. Everybody wins, right? So, the reason I'm here is I'm a lifelong progressive Democrat. And what I see going on in our state, we got a governor and the Republican legislature who are doing a terrible job with our budget and have really some unfortunate misguided priorities that run our state into the ground. I mean, privatization of Medicaid is a failure. They're making no progress to helping people with substance abuse and mental health care issues. They're underfunding education. Took away a lot of the collective bargaining rights for school teachers and for state employees. In the meantime, they keep funding what I call wasteful corporate giveaways. So they're putting money over here where we don't need it, and they're starving all the things over here that don't need it. And you know, I think I've got the leadership skills and the experience to actually fix those things, turn the state around, and just go back in the right direction. And I want to do that for all Iowans, for our kids and our grandkids, and that's why I'm running for governor. We started this campaign back in early May. Been traveling ever since all across the state. And the energy and the momentum just keeps growing. Because of the support and hard work, frankly, people like all of you, all across the Iowa. And for our campaign, we put out a policy statement in early December on mental health. It's such a big issue all across the state. And then we got 6 different current or former elected officials supporting our campaign. And I've never run for office before, but those people who have been elected before are supporting our campaign. And in all the polls that have come out so far from the Democratic governor's race, I'm leading in those polls. But most important is I've been traveling all around Iowa, meeting with folks, places like this, businesses, coffee shops, homes, farms, all across the state. I'm listening to people, learning from people about what can we do better in our state. And let me share some of the things that I'm hearing that people are concerned about. In Fort Dodge, a young father told me about his child's favorite teacher, no longer teaches in Fort Dodge, teaches in Minnesota. And I'm hearing that all across the northern part of our state. Because Minnesota has collective bargaining rights, and they have better pay. So we have a lot of Iowa teachers who are teaching up there instead of Iowa. Some students at UNI told us that, look, we're working 2 to 3 jobs to pay tuition, and now the regents want to raise tuition another 35%. Pretty soon college is not going to be affordable for many families in our state. Independents in Iowa, a gentleman told me, but look, you know, I don't think Republicans or Democrats care about Iowa anymore, particularly rural Iowa, because in his town, there's hardly any investments in infrastructure, new ones, hardly any new investments in job training, and incomes have been flat, like this tabletop for 5 or 6 years now. So he says, look, does anybody care about that? Privatization of Medicaid is causing a lot of people the individual patients are having their benefits cut or reduced, sometimes eliminated. Providers oftentimes aren't getting paid enough, or certainly not fast enough. Some providers have already gone out of business because they're not being paid. It's causing financial stress all across our state, and it doesn't have to be that way. And when I travel from Dubuque to Sioux City, everywhere in between, I think the topic that comes up the most is mental health and substance abuse. People are ending up in the county jails or in emergency rooms. They don't get the kind of support and treatment that they need, and it's very expensive. We traveled around the state, had 10 different meetings all around Iowa,
talking just about mental health and substance abuse, many of those in county jails, because that's where a lot of this happens. So we put out that plan to address this issue because it's so important in our state. So this harm is impacting people from the fiscal mismanagement and these bad priorities. Everybody in our state is suffering because of that. So what are we going to do about it? That's the important issue. What can we do about it? Well, I have 3 values that are important to our campaign that I live by and I talk about. The first is experience. We don't have small issues in our state. We took a $900 million surplus, and now we have $144 million of borrowed money, which is not paying back. At the same time, we have all these bad things that are happening to people. So it's a serious situation we have in our state. We need somebody who's got experience fixing things. Somebody who knows how to run things. I used to run the Yonkers department store business. See you in Crescent.
Yes, sir.
You know, we have 5,000.
He's
Yeah, but he's going to come to Crescent tomorrow. He lives in Crescent. He wants to see us tomorrow.
He's really nice.
Sunday. I know it's coming.
Tomorrow?
That's why I travel with these guys. They know my schedule. Yeah, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
But anyhow, you know, I had 5,000 employees working with us in Yonkers when I used to be the chairman of Yonkers. And then I ran a large insurance company, a life insurance company, with agencies around our state and the country. So I'm pretty familiar with delivering results for people and communities, which is really what we need. The Governor Culver asked me twice to win the state government. He first asked me to lead the board of directors as chair of the board for the Iron Power Fund, 2007 to 2010, making investments for the state in renewable energy and renewable fuels all across the state. In the middle of that, he asked me to run the Iron Department of Economic Development because he had to fire the director because we had a tax scandal in that department. So he asked me to go in and fix the scandal and redirect what we're doing in economic development. So I've got that experience of delivering results to people, the state, and the communities. And I think that's what we need. We've got a lot of challenges. But my second value is what I call unity. Because I've never been a politician. I've never run for office. I've done a lot of civic work, community work, and private sector work. And in all those experiences, people try to find what they agree on, not what they disagree on. Because you're trying to move whatever agenda it is for your organization forward. And that's what I want to bring to state government. A willingness to work with everybody up there who's got a good idea, find common ground first, and make progress, rather than fighting and arguing all the time. I'm not going to give up core progressive values, but I'm going to look for common ground first, where people can agree. My third core value is putting people first. I mean, look at what we've been experiencing the last couple of years with the state government here. Hardly any investments in education or job training, not much respect for state employees and teachers, taking away collective bargaining from both of those groups. You know, we need to invest in people in our state, put people first, let people build our state, rather than giving tax credits to businesses. The way to do that is to put the budget behind the priorities. If you listen to Reynolds, she said a lot of nice sounding things, but if you look at her budget, it's the opposite. The budget just keeps taking money away from what I think are the right priorities. The first of those is education and job training. I want to make that the top budget priority. Fully fund public education and pre-K in our state. And make college affordable again for people. And at the same time, make sure we have job training in every high school, coordinated with all the community colleges and the local employers all across our state. We don't have that today. A lot of high schools have very little or no job training. And it really hurts people's ability to get the jobs that we have available. The second priority is health care. We need to reverse the privatization of Medicaid. It's a disaster, an absolute disaster for the providers and for people, 600,000 people in the Medicaid system. We also need to really do a much better job of working towards helping to solve people's issues with with mental health and substance abuse. It is a prevalent problem in almost every community. It comes up in every meeting we have. And we need to have a lot more community-based local prevention, identification of those issues, get people out of the jails into community-based treatment. Excuse me. We can do that if we're smarter about it. We're doing it in 3 or 4 counties right now, where it's actually working. Keep people out of the jails, out of the emergency rooms, and get them into the treatment that they need locally. Saves the community money, and it gives much better support and treatment to the people that need it. I also think that we gotta address our environmental health care in this state. We have a real problem with water quality and air quality. And we're just talking about it, and we never really make progress. I think we need a bipartisan approach to long-term permanent funding for solving our water quality and air quality problem in Iowa. We can do that if we recognize it's an Iowa problem. It's not an agriculture or city. It's not an urban rural. It's an Iowa problem. And let's work on it together. My third top priority is incomes. We need to get incomes up in our state. Like that gentleman in Independence said, we can't afford people to have another 5 years of flat income growth. Governor Reynolds and Branstad, when they won the election in 2010, promised 25% income growth. They've had 2%. Their performance is terrible. And they just keep doing the same thing. They're not changing. They're just following the same pattern. You always do what you always get. If you always do the same thing you've always done, you're always going to get the same result. Most people call that the definition of insanity, right? And that's what they keep doing. We need to change that. I want to invest in people, invest in giving people back collective bargaining rights, invest in infrastructure all across Iowa, not just in our cities. It's got to happen all across Iowa. And that means rural Iowa needs that kind of support too. That's the way we can build support for our entire state. So I think I've got the experience. I want to pull people together, and I want to move forward by putting people first for our state. We're working on this message and this approach all over Iowa, and that's why those people are supporting us, because this message comes from you. We didn't make it up. We got it from people like you all over Iowa. This is what people want. We'd love to have you help our campaign. We'd love to have you join our team, particularly for these caucuses. They're going to be very important. It's the start of the whole primary season, is the caucuses. And they're coming, the caucuses start February 5. So with that, I'd love to respond to your questions and your suggestions. And then Mike will talk a little bit more about the caucuses. So thank you very much.
Just have a comment on the budget numbers, and whether it's you or any of other candidates for governor, I'll support whoever wins that contest. But not only do you go from a surplus to whatever you said on deficit, but to me, more importantly, was that Culver dealt with a $5 billion budget, and they're having this trouble with a budget that's $1.5 billion or two more than that. Isn't that correct? Aren't they dealing over 7? And so, to me, that's just a glaring deal.
Yeah. And they blame the agricultural economy, which is part of it.
But they still got $7 billion to work with.
But there's $7 billion to work with. I was on a tax credit review panel for the governor when I was running economic development in 2010. He had a bunch of us review all the tax credits and deductions. And then we made recommendations that would have saved the state $160 million a year. You know, these people haven't adopted any of those. None. So now that 160, because there's hardly any caps on those things, credits and exemptions, now it's $200 million a year. You know, those are all things that the state is putting $1 out and getting less than $1 back. And they keep getting bigger because there's no caps and there's no sunsets, which doesn't make any sense if you're a fiscally responsible person. So you're right, there's plenty of money there. We're just not investing it wisely as a legislature and the government. Doesn't matter.
I have a comment about the education that's coming. When we talk about that 2 years of skill training, why don't we frame that as an investment? It's a hell of a lot cheaper to teach a kid a skill that makes him a taxpayer. Where else can you invest 2 years and get a taxpayer for life. I mean, it doesn't make any sense not to.
You like that investment better than giving Apple $20 million
Yeah.
for 50 jobs?
You got that right. Look how many people you could do that for.
Exactly.
But to me, it's kind of like the K or pre-K through 14. If I would taught that span, you would have taxpayers coming out the other end all the time.
Right.
They wouldn't be doing the kinds of things that cost money.
Right. No, you're exactly
And
right.
the other thing is the basic on minimum wage. Like the last I heard, Iowa thought 7.25 was good. Has that changed?
No.
So like, how stupid can that be? You know, people can't live on that. So then you end up having to fund other things
Right.
to make that work.
Right.
So, you know, but it just seems to me that it's like Carlo said, it's the economy, stupid. Well, it's always no matter what year it is, it's always the economy, stupid. No matter what else.
Unfortunately, we have stupid people managing our economy.
Well, it's gonna get worse before it gets better, because we've got from now to the election.
Right.
But my son said, you can't, the people who are Trumpsters, you're never gonna educate them, the only thing you can do is outvote them. So it's kind of like, just figure it.
That's why this election in 18 is so important. Because if we don't, then we have 5 more years rather than 1 more year. And you're right about the education, which is why that's my top priority. You know, if we provide good job training and education those first pre-K all the way through 12th grade, you know, people are gonna have a lot more opportunities to fill the jobs that we have available in our state. We're gonna make it easier to create new jobs.
How does community-based health care, mental health care, work out here in rural Iowa?
Great question. So, do you have any psychiatrists there?
Yeah, Crossroads.
So you have telepsychiatry.
Psychiatry and then
You have telepsychiatry. This is available on a periodic basis. And then you can go to another town to actually see somebody when they're there. We have the lowest number of psychiatrists, the lowest number of psychologists, and trained counselors with master's degrees in almost any state in the country. And we have the lowest number of beds. So we have a real problem. Now, so the issue is how do you solve it? That's your question. And it's been proven all around, it's been proven in parts of our state that I've visited where it's working, and in other parts of the country that local community-based support services provide the best likelihood that somebody who has a mental health or substance abuse problem is going to be able to get back on their feet, become productive faster with less recidivism. So we've got to work to help the local communities have the ability to establish those. They're going to typically be nonprofit. They're going to have to be funded locally.
Well, we already have one here though.
In this town?
Crossroads, yeah, Crossroads serves this town, just like Wabanzi serves the lower parts.
So how often is beds full?
Oh, you mean inpatient care? Are you talking locked unit or
No, I'm not talking.
like a
I'm not
voluntary
talking about-
crisis?
Well, no, I'm talking about something anywhere from one day to 30 days.
So you're talking inpatient.
Or 1 day to.
I thought you were talking about just regular mental health, like,
But if somebody goes in there and they're in crisis and they're in there for 6 hours and then they're sent home, they're gonna be right back there.
but you are talking inpatient mental health. You're not talking about
I'm not-
just regular community mental health.
Community-based services.
Right, and community-based services also consist of outpatient.
Yeah. You gotta have the outpatient, but you have to have beds for people.
Right, now, they'd have to go to Clarinda. Clarinda has a crisis facility, but it's voluntary. Yeah, they do. I work for Wabanzi. And, Osceola lost theirs, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the privatization of Medicaid is more so.
No, but often they have to go to Nebraska.
Yeah.
They don't have to go north.
That's only if they'll accept.
Right, right.
My daughter works.
So if you have a problem, go to that one place in Nebraska, just show up at their ER, don't call anybody here. That's what I would do. There's a mental health hospital by Lincoln, that they have an ER, they have an ER mental health.
Yeah, but Lincoln's a long ways away.
Right, so if you have a problem, don't go here because you'll sit in an emergency room. If you're if you're suicidal. Because Wabansie, Clarinda place can't take you if you're suicidal. But otherwise, you'll get sent to Independence, and you're far better off going to Lincoln and showing up at their ER, because they'll pay for it. But yes, so are that the kind of place you're talking about?
I'm talking about to really be successful and help these people. They'll oftentimes only need 1 or 2 days, maybe 12 days.
So like what we would call a crisis.
Crisis intervention type center.
Okay.
We need to have those spread around the state.
Yes.
They closed Rinda and the other one, the other half of the state has nothing.
Which is, well, no, but that, Clarinda has a crisis facility now. They opened it with, region funding after, the
Mental
hospital.
Health Institute closed.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But there's only 5 beds, and you can only stay 5 days.
Yeah, and you know, if you talk to the people that we're talking about, the professionals, they'll tell you 5 days works for some people.
Right.
But for a lot of people, you know, you need longer. And the whole point is, the more likely we give them the crisis intervention treatment early and quick, keep them out of jail, out of the emergency room, then they're more likely to stay out of the jails and emergency room and be able to be productive in their community, their family, and work. So we're gonna have to figure out, I think it's gonna take support from the state as well as from the local communities to do that. You know, I get asked often about, you know, mental health is funded by the property tax levy for mental health. It's been frozen at a 1996 level.
Right.
And Republicans don't want to change that.
They turned it down. They voted it down last year.
My suggestion is that the state should say it's up to the local communities if they want to raise it. Because it's more of a local issue. Each community has a different need and different resources. So the local board of supervisors.
You don't think the stigma against mental health might prevent that from happening in local communities? Prevent people from thinking they need it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we went to Harlan, Iowa. I met with this guy named John Rosamond, who is an expert on this stuff.
Yeah.
Mental health, particularly in small rural communities, agricultural communities. And they were talking about, and they have a small little mental health facility. And people don't want their cars there.
Right.
They want to be dropped off there because they don't want their neighbors to see their car there. But they said it's starting to change because people realize it's affecting everybody. It's in almost every household. And the more we recognize it and accept it, it's a disease, not a failure of your personality or your mind or whatever else. Then the stigma is starting to disappear.
So what do you think we can do as a state to get more psychiatrists, psychologists, licensed mental health counselors?
So here's what we do. There is a program right now at the state level that provides funding for what's called general practitioner doctors to go to work in rural Iowa.
Right.
But you have to be a GP. It doesn't apply to psychiatrists or psychologists.
Right.
So one of the things we should do is expand that program so it covers psychiatrists and psychologists. Go to work in rural Iowa. And if they commit to do that for 5 years, pay back a whole bunch of their student debt. The other thing we need to do is work with UMU and University of Iowa, those are 2 medical schools, and make sure that they are giving some training to all the med students on identifying mental health issues, which they don't now do, and make sure they're getting residency programs in our state for psychiatry and psychology, which we don't have much of. You know, we need to encourage it all 3 ways. That's what it's going to take. It ain't going to happen overnight. But, you know, if we give somebody 5 years worth of commitment to pay off their debt, that's a lot.
Well, actually, now they can, with 2 years. 2 years, you can get $50,000 of your debt paid off. The federal government has a program.
That's for the federal government.
Right, so you're talking in addition, because obviously 50,000 doesn't cover
And we're not getting
criminal
it.
debt. Okay.
And we're not
So
getting
you're talking in addition to what the federal
Yeah,
government
I'm
does.
talking about the state for it.
Got it.
We need to take care of our state.
Yes, we do. And you need to expand it to licensed mental health counselors. Not just PhDs and MDs,
I would
but
go
masters.
to counseling.
Yeah.
I'm
That's-
sorry, I have.
You have to have a master's to be licensed mental health.
Thanks for coming, Corey.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
See ya.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna move to his chair, so I'm gonna fight back. There we go. Yeah, put a master's level on.
kind of touches on what Doris was saying, but we're not being self-centered, but I believe the election is going to be won in rural Iowa. I think you're going to get the Union votes in Waterloo and Cedar Rapids. You're going to get the Dems in Des Moines. I think the majority of persuadable voters are in rural Iowa. And then, as an example, you know, the fight for 15, that's great. That sounds great in Cedar Rapids. That sounds great in Des Moines. What you have here, you've got 300 welders at Precision Pulley at $15 an hour who say, well, why shouldn't I just work at McDonald's for $15 an hour? So you're going to have a real framing problem with how you address livable wages. And that's,
No, I'm not.
okay.
I won't, because I agree with you. I support raising the minimum wage, but I don't support 15. And part of the reason you just described. The other part is, you know, what do these people pay? We'll probably pay 9 or 10. You raise that to 15, we're gonna put a lot of small businesses out of business in rural Iowa. You know, and so we need to, I mean, I said we need to raise incomes. Absolutely, that's one of my top priorities. Part of that is raising the minimum wage. But what I would do is raise it to a higher number than where it is now. There's only one other state surrounds us, it's at 7.25. All the others are going up. We should go up into the double digits. And we should leave it, we should then let local communities like Cedar Rapids or Iowa City or Des Moines, if they want to go higher, terrific. You know, that's giving people more local input, local control.
Because you're going to battle here. I mean, we've got angry white guys here.
Yeah.
Let's face it. And that's a problem because even if you say, let's raise it to $10, angry white guy is going to say, my tax dollars are now going to.
Actually, that's not true.
I agree. I'm just saying, I think the majority of persuadable voters are here if you can educate them.
Right, that's exactly right. And I wouldn't talk about it from the point of view that we need to raise the minimum wage, so it's the right thing to do. I would talk about it because it saves the state money. If all of a sudden somebody's making $10 an hour versus making $7.25, they have more income, so they're going to get less, let's call it overall welfare subsidy from the state. They're going to have more income to spend in their community. The state saves money, the local community has another person who's giving back in their community. Economically, everybody wins. That's the reason to do it.
That's a great answer. Next is kind of a theoretical. So we talked about tax breaks for Apple, I mean, certain things like that. Is it possible if you're giving tax abatements, things like that to Walmart or whoever, is it possible to have a clawback provision in case any employees ever come to you for food stamps, that you can claw back some of those abatements? Just a theoretical question, I don't know.
You know, I haven't thought, I've never seen that, but it's an interesting idea. but let me address that same problem. The legislature and the governor 2 years ago reduced the commercial property taxes. It cost the state about $300 million. You know who's the biggest beneficiary of that? Walmart. So Walmart is the biggest beneficiary of that tax break. They don't even, you know, their headquarters isn't in Iowa, they just have some stores in Iowa. At the same time, if you look at the average wage in Iowa, even after the increase that they just put in place, Walmart's about $2 below that. So we're giving a commercial property tax break to an employer that is driving down wages in our state. Now, does that make sense?
I think people would get on board if you were going to claw back those tax breaks because they're on food stamps.
Well, I mean, what I would do is claw back the commercial property tax, right? Take it out away from them, and put that into infrastructure around this part of the state, education and job training. I mean, yeah, and we should look at the report. I mean, that's a very interesting way to look at it. Because if they promise to create a certain number of jobs and they don't, we should have clawback provisions in economic development.
And not to monopolize, but one last question. They're talking, we're 11,000 CAFOs, I think. They're saying we can handle 40,000 animal confinements. And we talk about water quality, things like that. That's going to be a big Farm Bureau hot button if you even touch the third rail of ag. But CAFOs are getting to be a real problem.
So, I agree. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I can call this guy over here, had a Pioneer hybrid hat on. I used to be in the Pioneer board, so I'm not a newbie when it comes to agriculture. I've never been a farmer, but I've been around this stuff. First of all, our governor is doing nothing to help Iowa keep NAFTA. And that's huge for Iowa, for the pork producers and the grain producers. It's huge. And all she's doing is nothing. And we need to be telling Grassley and Ernst and our president to stay away from the agricultural side of NAFTA. Yes, it hurt us on the manufacturing side, but not nearly as much as it's helped us on the agricultural side. So we need to protect that market. And just in case he continues to screw it up, she should be already traveling to Mexico, Latin America, and Canada, and building direct trade relationships for our agricultural products. That's what she should be doing. We already have that with China. Why don't we do it in those markets? I mean, that's what a leader should be doing. Being ahead of the problem, not waiting until it happens. Then they order out, then they've already said, got a new supplier. We need to get in there before we lose our supply relationship. So I'm a big supporter of agriculture in our state, but I'm also a supporter of making sure that the balance between agriculture and citizens, people who live in the communities, is in proper balance. And when you look at the master matrix these days, I think it skews too much towards the pork producers. It doesn't have enough room for public input or the supervisors' input into the location and size and type of market factors. You got a question?
Well, rural Iowa looks a lot different than the Des Moines area. My children live in rural Adel. And schools are not there because they've done too many tax abatements. And so they can't build their schools fast enough because they don't have the money. You can see that in rural Iowa, we have definite different needs. And you being a Des Moines person, sometimes it's hard for me to see that you can see what we need. How can you convince me that you will look out for rural Iowa?
Good question. And I have a good answer. I told you that I used to be the chairman of Yonkers. We have 19 stores in Iowa, over 4,000 employees. I visited all those stores lots of times, so I was in all those communities. And believe me, Yonkers did a nice job of supporting the people and those communities. And at the same time, when I was running our power fund, chairing that board, we made 60 investments all across the state. And we had meetings for 4 years all around Iowa. My life insurance company I worked with was all across the country, as well as we have an agency up here in Red Oak, one of our best insurance agencies. So, I'm an Iowa. I'm going to make up a term, Des Moines. I've always thought of myself as an Iowa. And so when I travel around the state, meetings like this, listening and learning from all of you, I understand what you're talking about. I've been in towns with Yonkers, and I've been in towns in the power fund that are struggling. And the important thing is to understand why. And what can we do to alleviate that as much as possible. And I see what's going on when I'm listening to people. I always hear about healthcare and education / job training. And you're right, Adele's got problems. But Des Moines got problems in their schools, but there's different problems than what you have. And there are different problems from what Clarinda has. And every school is different. Every community is different. So my approach is to create a lot more local control, local decision making. The legislature in the last 2 years has moved a lot more things up to Des Moines to decide and tell you what to do. I think it should go the other way. Because at Yonkers, if we sat in our offices in Des Moines and told 19 stores around the state how to do their job every day with their customers, we would have failed. And that's what's going on in our state. I want to take the school aid formula and say, however much money we can put into it, you got all these buckets, okay? Put a minimum amount in each bucket, and above that, the local school board decides how to spend that money. Right now, it's all dictated by the board. It's the wrong approach, because we should recognize the diversity that we have and the differences, and allow local people to have those decisions, rather than a few people that go to Des Moines and all they do is follow a party line.
It's kind of like our kids that are riding the bus.
Excuse me?
It's like our kids riding the bus back and forth to school. Every student is allotted so much money in our school, in our rural school system. It takes so much of that money per student and put it into transportation,
Right.
because we have to have our buses.
Yeah.
These poor kids, you know, they have to be able to get back and forth to school. We talk about education, but if they can't get there,
And so you're having to cut music classes and art classes.
they do.
And all those kind of things. And other places don't have the transportation problem, but they may have an English language learner problem, so they have to spend a lot more money on that.
Well, they are, and they take a music teacher and they give her 3 schools
Right.
in a district.
Which is not realistic.
It's not realistic because she spends all her time going back and forth to the schools.
Which is why I want to create more flexibility for the school districts, the local school districts, to decide how to spend the money. And we need to look at the formula, because whatever the number is, $600, or whatever it is, we're fully funded, it's going to be higher. But if we give each student all across the state the same amount of money, then basically what we're doing is we're downsizing rural schools. Because the cost of doing business out here is going to be higher on a per student basis. So we have to look at that. I mean, you know, if that's what this governor wants to do, then just say it. Tell us what, you know, just announce it, okay? Don't hide it. But what I want to do is look at that formula, because giving every student the same amount of money all across the state clearly is not working.
Thank you everyone very much for your questions. I want to make sure that Mike has a chance to walk through caucusing a bit.
All right.
Thank you all very much. Michael, do a good job.
Okay, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate y'all coming out. You know, I might not be as exciting, but you know, we have the caucus coming up here, coming up on the 5th, right?
Yes.
And it is. I'm sorry.
February 5th, it's at the courthouse.
It's going to be at the
All
courthouse.
precincts will be meeting in the courtroom at the courthouse.
Right. And so every precinct will be in the courthouse.
Yeah, we're
Yes,
gonna
ma'am.
break into our precincts, but we're
Okay,
all up
right,
there.
you're gonna all be
in the courtroom.
All right, well, that kind of takes into the second part. I hope you'll be supporting Fred. You know, after I think we got to see him kind of in person, I obviously am a little biased, right? But you know, I personally, I come from a rural area myself, different state, but a little bit warmer where I'm from, Florida. But you know, I feel very strongly, personally, about rural organizing, and I really think Mr. Hubbell kind of recognizes some of the issues we have here and some of the positives we have in a community like this. I personally work here in Adams, as well as some of the other rural counties here in Iowa, and something that's very important to me. I grew up in a rural part of Florida where we're going through some of the same issues, substance abuse issues, mental health issues. So nationwide, something I feel very strongly about. And you know, I really just appreciate talking to y'all and reaching out. When it comes to the caucus is going to be, once again, February 5th. It's going to be at 7 o'clock. We are asking folks who are joining us, and I'm sure for every candidate for the party there, to join us at 6:30, a little bit early. Make sure you're there. It does start exactly at 7. And we are looking for folks who can support us in 3 ways with the caucus. The first, the most simple, and the most important is simply attend the caucus, right? We are looking for folks to help us join the caucus and support Fred, you know? So if you'd be interested in joining us at the caucus, if you could just talk to me when I'm done giving my spiel here, and we'll get you signed up. I've got a commit to caucus card. You can just fill that out and just mark down that you'll be joining us. The second most important thing to kind of help us get with Mr. Hubbell is to run as a delegate. I figure we're all familiar with the caucus system. Running as a delegate, so you'd be here for the first caucus, and then the county convention, which is going to be on March 24th. And then the third thing, we are looking for folks to join us and help out. Just one person in county is what we call a county captain. It sounds like a big job, but it's pretty simple. It's just people who can kind of help us reach out to more people in the community, and on caucus night, just make sure our people are there. So yeah, if you would be interested in caucusing, feel free to come up and talk to me. I'd really appreciate it. We'll get you signed up. Thanks to y'all for having us out. You know, this is a big election. I really think Fred's man for the job. We got a lot of work to do, but we all got to do it together. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you.